The best thing about The Boys is its inventiveness, originality, and humor when depicting scenes of violence and depravity. It's known as a satirical show, and in that satire, the sexual hijinks and extreme ultraviolence are when the show's wit and originality truly shine. Now, the show isn't all violence, and sure, the comic book and TV show do have long scenes of characters talking about exposition, their feelings, or whatever, but that's not what people remember. No one is making YouTube videos of the top 7 conversations in The Boys. What's mind-blowing about The Boys is it takes superhero powers and tropes to their ultimate conclusion, arriving at places that are enthralling, disgusting, and wonderfully creative. Superhero comic books and movies have always had a lot of action and violence, but with a young and mainstream audience, they had to literally pull their punches. Like you couldn't have Dr. Octopus using his mechanical arms to punch a hole through someone's chest and rip their heart out like you would in an R-rated horror film. That began to change in the 1980s when the dark and gritty superhero trend began. Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns were adult fare. Well, honestly, they were read by preteens when they came out, but these were some mature kids, I tell you. Read the label, and they had some shocking scenes, but they did not go full-on with buckets of blood like The Boys does today. The show and comic book are a continuation of the harsh days of comic book deconstruction, but one that isn't afraid to ask the silly and scatological questions we have been asking about superheroes like, would Catwoman eat rats? Yep. Would a man with mole powers shoot the dirt out of his ass? Yes, sir. And fans would love it. Wouldn't Spider-Man shoot webs out of his butt like a real spider? Why not? Although Venture Brothers asked this question before The Boys did with their Brown Widow character. If someone has super smell, then that means they smell the butthole of everyone they meet. So some fans were thrilled, and others were appalled to see these soups sniffing the excrement of their last meal. Daredevil is known for his super hearing, but his sense of super smell is seldomly explored. So even if he was deafened, he could still smell the holes of his enemy approaching. Unless they had just washed their butts in a bidet, a team of stealthy ninjas couldn't get Daredevil, because he would be able to smell the sashimi in their buttholes coming at him. We've seen people get shot in action movies so many times that it has become tiresome. We need creativity in the kills these days. Like John Wick 3 is the best film in the series because it has so much variety. He smashes a guy's head with a book. He stabs numerous foes with throwing knives. He kills a guy with a backward horse kick. He shoots a motorcyclist while he rides the same horse. And why get kicked through glass one time when it's so fun to keep doing it? We can also add variety with practical effects gore, like in the Friday the 13th movies. Oh, look at Jason's face spaz out as it slides down that machete. Isn't that a thing of beauty? Another option is to ramp up the blood sport to 11. Now we saw Rambo mow down scores of dudes with his M60 in Rambo 2 and 3. But when he came back for the 4th movie, he needed to show us a little more of what those heavy machine guns can do to a body. And it looks like they completely sever, dismember, mutilate, and tear apart these poor saps. And now we really know what it means when you say you are going to blow someone away. And oh wow, Rambo is really ripping them up. Hey Rambo, you're making me uncomfortable. Anywho, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is cool and all, but having to be PG-rated hampers its potential. Like when Ant-Man was fighting Kang the Conqueror in the last Ant-Man movie. He kept trying to shrink small and then punch him over and over. What a waste of his abilities. All he had to do was miniaturize, fly into Kang's ears, and then enlarge inside of him, destroying his entire body. But Marvel is too classy for that kind of extreme violence. Good thing The Boys isn't. Like when the termite decides he will have a little fun crawling up his lover's urethra. The urethra interior looks great, by the way, because they designed a real set for this scene. and the boys does an excellent job of mixing practical effects with CGI. Then Termite sneezes and blows up his boo from the inside. Now that is what we wanted to see. Ant-Man should get in a fight with Deadpool just so we can watch Deadpool's pile of body parts grow back together. Or would new baby body parts grow out of one of the adult pieces? It's fun to speculate. Speaking of Deadpool, let me briefly tell you about a gross-out comic book character I created when I was a kiddo in the late 1980s. I would write stories and pass them out to my friends. His name was Digesto, and he had all the gross-out powers. He had a super digestive system, so he could eat and digest anything, like chew through a wall or gurgle down a barrel of toxic waste. He could throw up acidic vomit and had foul-smelling knockout urine that he would fill his squirt gun with. And if he had to pull out the big guns, he had the ultimate power of projectile turds.
That's your fucking power? You can control shit?
Well, it's better than yours, dickface.
Rise up, my turd friend!
In order to do all this, he had to have an accelerated metabolism, which would give him regenerative powers, so he could quickly heal if he was maimed in any way. And to that last power, you are probably thinking, I stole that from Wolverine. And you would be correct. But this was before the movies, and I only had the comic book to refer to. The healing factor was treated in a very non-gory way in the comics. And in the movies, he heals so nice and quick that it isn't satisfying to gore meisters like myself. In my stories, I explored the healing factor more than any other power. Digesto would fall off a building and splatter on the sidewalk. Then his parts would grow back together, or he would get cut in half, and the two halves would grow into two people. Then I would have him destroyed in a nuclear blast, but a small, slug-like piece of him would slither away and eventually regrow. You get the idea. But about 2 years later, the 24-year-old Rob Liefeld independently thought of copying Wolverine's powers and giving them to the ultra-violent Deadpool. And comic book writers have been playing with new and fun ways to explore this power ever since. Liefeld's art is not excessively gory, but the stories did get incrementally more violent throughout the 90s. And by the time other artists took over the character in the 2000s, Deadpool becoming dismembered and growing back together became a regular occurrence. Cut to modern day, and middle-aged studio executives are approving a scene where Juggernaut rips Deadpool in half. Now, if I brought Digesto back today, people would think I was just copying Deadpool. The point is that Gen Xers like myself, who were young comic book readers in the 80s, and were simultaneously watching action and horror films that were routinely bloodier than blockbuster movies today, are now in charge of the comic book and movie industry. Like the Batman movies are based on Frank Miller's version, so is Daredevil, a version of the Kingpin that was specific to one Elektra assassin comic book in the 80s, was used for Into the Spider-Verse. James Gunn is into specific obscure characters like Vigilante and Guy Gardner, who were popular in the late 1980s, but only Gen X boys would know and care about these things. And now when they make these movies and TV shows, they finally have a chance to put their childhood on screen. When I first saw The Boys, I thought, okay, well, this is where the Watchmen idea of superhero deconstruction is going. And it's headed in the most violent direction possible. Like the female character has healing factor abilities, and here we have her severed in half body being carried around. It's like Wolverine fan fiction mixed with a slasher flick. When you combine 80s horror films with re-examined comic book archetypes and look at it through a comical lens, then you have The Boys. Let's talk about the show's sexual depravity, because the Supes and the Boys are a bunch of depraved sluts.
And we will definitely be spending a lot of time talking about masturbation!
The comic book goes into a lot of detail about how all the Supes are Omega-level pervs. And even though the show toned this down, they still get into some yikesy material. This scene where Homelander and Stormfront kill a homeless person and then have sex in the alleyway is top-shelf premium content. In a nutshell, it's a show about pervs and murderers. And back to Wolverine's healing factor, we have a look at what would happen if it was used to satisfy weird fetishes when a soup rents out his abilities so some sleazy guy can get off by cutting off his arm for kicks. Oh, look, here's a dildo in a scene with a rich scumbag decadent. Of course, the show is going to use it as a weapon. Let's make sure the sex, violence, and lowbrow humor are all wrapped up with a bow. Now that's what I call a story beat. The best perv moment in the series is when the sex position of face sitting is explored. Would having your face sat on by a lusty superwoman be hot? Well, not when she can't temper her super butt, and the guy's head gets crushed, as we get to feast our eyes on in this scene with Popclaw. I couldn't believe it when I saw this. Let's give the boys a round of applause. This is a golden moment in television history. You should post a clip of this on your Facebook page. Then there are the super penises.
Richards, can his whole body stretch? I mean, every part, like his...
I know what you mean. We never really tackled stuff like that in the old days. I mean, what with the comic book code and all.
There are two super penis characters in the show. There is Ezekiel, who has the stretching powers of the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards and uses these stretchy limbs and sex organs to better maneuver his way around an orgy, as Huey explains.
Your dick was so perfect and long and stretchy, and you played my butt like jazz. With poise and skill and willingness to improvise.
Then we have Love Sausage, who also has a super penis that is retractable and tentacle-like, that he can use both for advanced love-making and combat. Or maybe he could do both at the same time, like slap it against someone's face until they die. Porn stars are sometimes called sex athletes, and who are more athletic than superheroes? It makes sense that these privileged elites would all gather for a bizarre orgy, like they do in the Hero-gasm episode. Representation of diverse sexuality is important, and interspecies fish sexuality is represented with the Deep and his squid partner, who show those other posers at the party what a super freak really is. The Deep is an analog for Aquaman, who has super strength and swimming speed, a body so dense he can survive the pressure of swimming in the darkest depths of the ocean, and has the ability to speak telepathically to fish and give them mental suggestions that will make them do his bidding. If Aquaman has sex with fish, is something often speculated on by fans. In the Harley Quinn cartoon, Aquaman is out about his sexuality and boasts of his conquests with sharks.
You're not my dad!
That is contrary to what she said. Ahoy!
However, the Jason Momoa Aquaman is closeted and denies the fish sex allegations. And who can blame him when he faces intense discrimination by anti-woke fish sexual phobes like Peacemaker?
Go fuck another fish, asshole!
I'm so fucking sick of that rumor.
It's not a rumor.
However, he is in love with Mira, who isn't technically a mermaid, but pretty much apes her look from The Little Mermaid. And mermaids are a gateway attraction type for people who later identify as ichthyophiles, more commonly known as fish sexuals.
You're my lovey baby Aquaman. You shuck my oysters so good.
Hey Myra, what's with all these turds floating around? We aren't even in bed.
Thankfully, the Submariner, the Marvel Universe's equivalent to Aquaman, isn't afraid to be a loud and proud fish sexual. In a notable issue of the X-Men, he makes love with the Queen of Tabula River, who is a river tapeworm. This bold move makes his fish sexuality canon. The Deep doesn't hook up with tapeworms. Octopus are more to his taste, which technically are not fish, but mollusks, cephalopoda. And it looks like the mollusks get a suction on his junk that is tighter than a human would be capable of. He begins to explore his sexuality by communicating telepathically while he is making love to a human. When this isn't enough, he starts introducing his mollusk girl, Ambrosius, to his human partners for 3 ways. The women go along with it begrudgingly at first, but he is the only one really satisfied. This grows beyond just sex, though, and eventually he is having a real relationship with Ambrosius. But when he starts cheating on her with Sister Sage, she does something. As a man with deep insecurities and little insight, he can't handle. She tells him the truth about how Sage is using and manipulating him and doesn't respect him. In a rage, he smashes her aquarium and lets her suffocate to death. This brings a tear to my eye, poor Ambrosius. Maybe someday there will be a Submariner storyline about a healthy fish sexual relationship, but we will never get one from someone as shallow as the deep. Although mollusks are his preference, his sexuality expands to sea mammals. In one scene where he is attempting to save a dolphin, she comes on to him, but he's not that into her. How awkward the dolphin sex would be is not fully explored because he slams on the brakes, sending her hurtling to gruesome splatitude. He repeats this theme of killing those he wants to save when he attempts to save a lobster and ends up getting its head chopped in half. Homelander punishes him by forcing him to eat his friend Timothy, who cries for mercy while he is being eaten alive. Later, he endorses an underwater pipeline that ends up breaking and killing thousands of sea animals.
Jeremy? Jeremy? You hear me?
We know, Kevin. We know it was you.
In a golden moment of the show, he heroically stands atop a whale as he uses it to blockade the escaping boys, only for them to ram into the whale and erupt it into an avalanche of whale guts and gore. Then the boys muck around for a minute in a custom set of the whale's compartmentalized stomach that is similar to the set for Termite's Urethra Adventure. Inspired moments like this are what made the boys special. The Deep was such an inspired character that it was a shame time was wasted on him as a Manosphere parody when they could have further explored the many quirks of the Aquaman mythos. What did happen was he was killed by a swarm of angry mollusks, which didn't make sense because his body is too invulnerable for him to be easily head-popped this way. The show should have dedicated a whole episode to his killing called The Hunt for the Deep and fully explored his colorful underwater world in a way that parodied The Little Mermaid and Aquaman movies. The plot could revolve around the boys taking a submarine to investigate cases of sea animals who had ingested Compound V and were attacking luxury yachts. You could throw in some fun stuff like sharks with lasers attached to their heads, like in the Austin Powers movies, and add some mermaiders. Mermaiders are mermaids who commit murder like in the Death Clock song, in case you don't know. Then when you combined the boys-style violence with Aquaman Disney magic, you would have the peak satire the show always strived for. Let's talk about head popping, because The Boys has so much of it and really brought it to a new level. The first, and still the best, head explosion in cinema history is in the film Scanners, where people with telepathic powers have the ability to invade someone's consciousness and explode their head. It takes a lot of effort to do this. You can see in the original Scanners, and in the sequel, it takes some time and concentration for the scanner to get those brains gushing out of their gourds. And because each head explosion is a taxing feat of will, it's satisfying for the audience when the brains finally come gushing out. Ever since then, the floodgates have been open, and we have been seeing head explosions across the spectrum of horror and action movies. Now the boys Victoria Newman can pop heads much more easily, powerfully, and suddenly than a scanner. Sometimes she is in the room when it happens. Other times it is from a distance. It isn't clear if there is a range limit for how far away she has to be to explode someone. Her eyeballs will often roll back when she is doing the popping. One of the great scenes in the series is in the courthouse, where it's complete bedlam and everyone's head is splattering. This is what head explosion enthusiasts have always wanted. However, I can't help but notice in this scene where she is pretending to be scared, that her eyeballs are not rolling back, and it seems to take less effort for her to blow up a room full of heads than it takes to blow up just one brain like in this other scene. These head explosions are created with a mix of practical effects and CGI. For up-close shots, the show creators would cover a headless dummy with bananas and fake blood and shoot the actors with a blood cannon with the explosion itself added in digitally. Although not quite as good as doing it with all practical effects like scanners, the viewers did get a quality splatter film experience. After the courthouse scene, the show kept popping a lot of heads and doing complete splat-on-wall body explosions. Homelander would destroy heads with his heat vision, heads got knocked off their body with super punches, etc. At this point, the audience was taking head pops and body explosions for granted. Sure, it's great that we have a show that consistently goes there with the gore, but does this excessive oozing of gray matter make these gore moments less special? It's like the showrunners have run out of ideas on how to dismember people, even though superhero powers should provide endless variety. When Homelander busts open the president's skull in Season 5, this should be a titillating moment, but it isn't. It's just another head pop. This brings us to the man you love to hate, Homelander! Aside from all it's done for the splatter film genre, one of the great contributions to popular culture the show has had is the Homelander meme, thanks to Anthony Starr's wonderfully expressive face. He emotes arrogance, weakness behind the facade, and complete absurdity. Many fans felt betrayed by his pathetic display of cowardice in the finale, and came up with a series of memes of what it would be like if other supervillains had done the same. Would it have been a good ending to Harry Potter if Voldemort had told Harry he would suck his dick and eat his shit? But when it comes to violence, the great innovation with the Homelander character is the use of laser eyes. Now, Superman looks pretty cool using his lasers in the Snyder movies, but the films only hint at their man-melting potential, and Cyclops from the X-Men has optic blasts that channel energy from the punch dimension. See how he is just knocking people and things about? He's really just punching them, you see. I'll let Cyclops explain.
Yeah, but they're not lasers.
Then what are they?
They're punches. What? There's no heat involved. They're beams of pure force. So they're not like a laser. They're more like a punch. And they come from the punch dimension.
You're making that up.
That's a real place.
Shut up.
It's the truth. My eyes are actually just portals that open into the punch dimension, which is a dimension of nothing but pure kinetic punch energy. And then that comes out.
Hold on.
So you're not going to see Cyclops lasering anyone in half, although it looks like they made his optic punches a little more lasery in the more recent adaptations. But Homelander never fails to deliver vulgar displays of his heat vision power. Like when he goes on a military mission, he tears those terrorists to ribbons. The soldiers are shocked and appalled as he effortlessly slices and dices his victims. You could accuse Homelander of being a one-trick pony, but laser eye kills never get old. Although the funniest use of this power actually belongs to Butcher in the scene where he uses Laser Baby as a ray gun. But what about his other powers? He uses his super strength to rip people apart and punch holes in them a lot, and that's cool enough. He ends up killing as many soups as the boys do, ripping holes through Black Noir, Firecracker, A-Train, and Webweaver. In the famous airplane scene, he screws up the mission by misfiring and lasering the cockpit. You would think he would lift up the plane and guide it down to Earth like Superman does in Superman Returns. But instead, we get his explanation about the dynamics of how that wouldn't work. This is his most relatable moment. We have all worked with incompetent people who are full of excuses. What good is Superman if he can't rescue a plane? This should be a basic function of his employment. Maybe he could fix things by circling the Earth and rotate the axis of time like the Christopher Reeves Superman did. But he can't do that either. Homelander can fly into space, but can he live without oxygen up there? Or would he just have to hold his breath for a while and then come back down? We never get to see him in space, unfortunately. Having him fail to save a space shuttle in distress could have been a funny escalation to the airplane episode. Homelander forces himself on a woman and impregnates her with a super baby, which isn't consistent with how the boys interprets his other powers. It has been speculated among fans over the years that the force of Superman's ejaculation would be that of a speeding bullet and would rip a hole through Lois Lane when he made love to her.
Wait, you don't have, like, super sperm or something, do you?
But Superman has impregnated Lois Lane in different versions of the series, and it has been decided by writers that Superman has absolute microscopic control of his muscles, like when he pulls his punches when fighting with powerless humans. This means that when Superman ejaculates into Lois Lane, he has to concentrate really hard and have a micro-orgasm. This must make sex with Lois Lane a lot less fun than with Wonder Woman. But Homelander clearly doesn't have this kind of control of his powers. He has more training than Laser Baby, but he couldn't even precisely laser a terrorist without destroying the whole cockpit. He doesn't even seem to be able to pull his punches when he hits people. So it isn't established at all that Homelander would have this micro-muscle control, and his super sperm would shoot a hole through a woman when he came. This could be put in the category of power scaling, where you compare one character's penis, powers, to another, which the show has been inconsistent with on several occasions. Many fans would have loved to see him go scorched earth and just kill everybody in Washington, D.C. for the finale, but it has become a movie cliche for cities to get leveled while superhumans battle it out. Could this kind of superhero fight in a city ever be done with originality at this point? We have seen two indestructible superhumans fly through buildings like in the Man of Steel, and when the Avengers battle it out with a monotonous alien army, we have the roots of this idea with Godzilla and Mecha Godzilla spitting hellfire as Tokyo crumbles under their feet. But the true meaning of what the real human toll would be with this kind of event is never there, because what real-life disaster victims look like isn't blockbuster movie fun. It wouldn't be fun and cool, it would be a horror. The model for how to do this right can be found in the most violent comic book ever written, Alan Moore and John Totlben's Miracle Man issue number 15 in 1988. In the issue, Kid Miracle Man, who has the powers of Shazam, decides to kill everyone in London. These graphic images of beheaded and impaled victims and wailing souls with severed limbs wandering around a hellscape traumatized me as a child and has never lost its shock value. Something similar to this would be difficult to pull off in The Boys, which is a brightly lit and ultimately upbeat show. Despite all its head-pop blood lollipops, it's Totlben's talent for horror imagery that sells the hellscape of a true superhero battle. A team of aliens and superheroes come to battle Kid Miracle Man in a bloody showdown. While desperate in the moment, Miracle Man hurls a car, an action he comes to regret for the rest of his life, as there were still innocents in the vehicle. Kid Miracle Man is too savage for the super team, and he crushes them at every turn, until the Warp Smiths realize they can penetrate the force field around his body by teleporting rocks underneath it. Causing him such intense pain, he says his magic word and transforms back into his human child form. The comic grimly ends with Miracle Man crushing the boy's skull so he could never repeat his magic word again, bringing home the human costs of what a citywide superhero fight would incur. This epic ending should have been Homelander's. The show's loose ends could have been tied up earlier in the season, and the finale could just concentrate on this one battle. The elements of what they needed to lead to this were in the show, but they never added it up. They had established that he was a mass murderer, and he had fantasies about killing whole crowds of people, but he was still a corporate employee and public figure, and so he had to restrain his darker impulses. In episode 3 of the 5th season, he starts having stress-induced hallucinations and a grandiose delusion that he is God. And in episode 6, he is injected with a second dose of Compound V, overloading his system and making him more powerful. The order of these events should have been reversed, because overdoses of stimulant drugs are known to induce psychotic symptoms that resemble schizophrenia. Therefore, the cause of his delusions would be better explained if they were a side effect of too much compound V, as stress just isn't a satisfactory explanation. Season 5 also has a storyline about the public relations difficulties of convincing the general public that he is God. This could be thrown out and replaced with one that asks a more interesting question. What if Superman had schizophrenia? This would have been the most interesting point explored in a comic book film since Logan asked what it would be like if the world's most powerful psychic, Professor X, suffered from dementia. In Season 4, Homelander returns to his roots, the lab where he was raised. At the lab, he goes scorched earth in a smaller way on the scientists who raised him. He plays cat and mouse with them for a while and then tortures and murders them all. At the end of the episode, he is covered in blood, laughing and completely unhinged. Yet in the next episode, he just goes back to being his normal self. So this never amounts to anything in his character arc. What really would have worked, however, is if in Season 5, he gets injected with Compound V, starts hallucinating and having delusions that he is God, and then Episode 7 is when he kills the scientists who raised him, setting the stage for a crazed Homelander who will go about mass murdering the entire city of Washington, D.C. in Episode 8, because he believes this is his right as a wrathful Old Testament-style god. Then we would have the season finale of epic proportions fans of The Boys and fans of cinematic violence have always wanted. It had already been established that he can be held down and knocked unconscious by other supes. So a fully powered Homelander could be defeated by a team of the Omega-level supes, including his son. The Gen V characters and others could be found or written in. Some fans think they wanted an ending faithful to the original Boys graphic novel, but what they really wanted was a live-action version of Miracle Man number 15. Instead, fans just got another head pop. Watch those warm red dyed bananas just flow right out of him. Oh well, that's fine, I guess. All in all, we live in a world where a show's cultural relevancy is found in the number of memes, show clips, and video essays people continue to watch after the show has ended. The Boys is filled with tons of clippable moments that will keep it in the zeitgeist for years to come. The fact that many fans are obsessed with its faults and spending so much time writing fan fiction that corrects whatever they think is wrong with the show is proof that at its core, The Boys has something that inspires the imagination. No one would bother to write alternate endings for a show they didn't care about. As for the violence, we are in an era where blockbusters are toned down in order to get a PG-13 rating, while premium content on cable and in video games is ramping up the level of blood splatter, head pops, body explosions, and creative kills no longer belong to nerdy teenagers watching B-movie slasher flicks on VHS. Excessive, relentless violence can be enjoyed by all. God bless America. Thanks for watching. Nuff said. You're a real peach for watching this video. I beg you pretty please with sugar on top to like, comment, and subscribe. Press the bell button for notifications. And don't forget to come and say hi to Miss Peppy and myself at JohnnyPissoff.com.